Welcome to Delicious and Nutritious, where we use the best quality ingredients to cook the tastiest food. Guys, today what we are going to do is we are going to cook one of my favorite and easiest recipes that we do have, which is going to be healthy, gluten-free, blueberry lemon poppy seed muffins. So I know that sounds like a lot of a tongue twist in there, but if you don't want to add some of the ingredients and you want to just go with the blueberries, you can do that. You can make this recipe your own. So we're gonna jump right into this today. So if you guys are up for more tasty recipes, please make sure to click the subscribe and turn on your notifications so we can get you guys all of the tastiest ingredients. So as always, we're gonna break down everything we have here, and then on Fridays, we release the shortened and condensed version of what we are doing here today, so that if you guys want the reference to all the ingredients and what I use and why I use it, you guys can check that out here. And then on Friday, if you ever want to reference back this and you don't care, or you already have the ingredients stored in your mind, you guys can go ahead and use that quick cooking reference guide as well. So today, this is going to come from Thrive Market. If you guys haven't heard about Thrive Market, it's a really good place to get some great quality food. So what we are going to need today is going to be a couple of things. Number one thing, we're gonna need 2 cups of flour. So in Thrive Market's recipe, they recommend Pamela's Nut Flour Blend. However, today what I'm gonna be using is going to be the natural almond flour. Actually, organic almond flour is extremely challenging to find, so if you can find it, you can use that. However, I use Bob's Red Mill almond flour. It doesn't matter really if it's going to be the one that's going to be all white or if it has a little bit of this in it, but you definitely want it to be non-GMO. That is very important. So that is the number one ingredient. Number 2, we're gonna have a ½ teaspoon of salt. Once again, we're using pink Himalayan sea salt, or we are also using the gray salt, which I have stored in this almond butter jar. We're gonna do a ½ teaspoon of baking soda. Please make sure to get all natural baking soda. Baking soda and baking powder oftentimes come with aluminum intertwined into this product. So you wanna make sure it's natural. The ingredients on this is just strictly sodium bicarbonate. Whenever it does say to use baking soda or baking powder, I use both baking sodas. This is really inexpensive. It's only gonna be 99 cents. This is gonna be the Whole Foods brand. And I wanna make sure that you guys do know, like I talked about, aluminum is in that product. I do not use it. I don't even use baking powder anymore because I saw that there's cornstarch in there. There's a whole bunch of other things in that product that I am not really a big fan of. So baking powder is gonna be it. But please Google the translation recipe for that to make sure you're going appropriately from the soda to the powder to the soda. So I believe that it is 1/3 the amount of powder when you're using soda. So if it's 1 teaspoon, you're gonna use 1/3 teaspoon. And I've actually put way too much soda in a recipe substituting, and it really sucked the flavor away from that. So please make sure to be very cautious when using this. The next thing we're going for is 2 large organic eggs. So if eggs are a problem for you guys, some people do have problems with eggs, you can use a flaxseed egg alternative, which is gonna require you to make it. So I am going to put that in the pinned comments below if you do wanna check that out. It's basically gonna be grinding flax and putting it in water, letting it congeal, and then using that as the congealing agent. It will add a little bit of flaxy, nuttier taste to the recipe, but it is an option for you guys if you do have an egg sensitivity. You're gonna use 2 flaxseed alternative eggs, obviously because we're using 2 eggs. And once again, organic, very important. Number 2, pasture raised, not cage free, pasture raised. Cage free just means that they have some type of access to the outdoors. We want them to be raised on the pasture, eating what's on the pasture, not what is in the feed, because the feed is not typically what chickens eat. They are carnivores. They go after bugs and everything on the property. We want them to be getting all the protein that they can possibly get, which then in turn makes the eggs healthier for us, and it makes their offspring healthier as well. And then next we have 1/4 cup, and I'm gonna make sure you guys do this appropriately when we do get to that part, of ghee, melted ghee. So ghee is going to be clarified butter. If you are cooking and you don't want to use refined, once again, refined coconut oil, not unrefined, refined, because it's going to take out the coconut pieces from the oil and it's gonna make it really about cooking, and it's gonna take a lot of that coconut flavor out. But if you want to use ghee, ghee is going to be clarified butter. That means it has a higher smoke point. That means it's better for cooking and it's longer lasting. This recipe is going to call for a 1/4 cup, but I am going to use coconut oil today, refined. It is going to work just the same. And then the next thing we're going to use, in this recipe it says 1/3 cup of honey. I am going to be using maple syrup. So if you guys do check out this maple syrup, all of it is now grade A, like we did talk about, US grade A. It used to be grade B and grade A and grade C would differentiate what the color was and the mineral content, but you really want to go for as dark. So this one says very dark color, strong taste, USDA organic. This one is going to be dark, right? That means that it is not purified, it is not refined down. This one has all the minerals in this specific one. So very important for me that it's organic, number one. Number two, that it is very dark in color. You can literally see there will literally be like an amber one all the way to a very dark one. The very dark one's gonna get more expensive. The reason being is it's less sugar content and it's higher mineral content. So we're getting things back from the maple syrup and it's not just strictly sugar. And then we're gonna use a teaspoon of vanilla. The vanilla that I use is non-alcoholic vanilla. It does get a little bit pricey. This one is from Frontier Co-op. It is organic, really important for me, and it is in glycerin as opposed to alcohol. Alcohol is another sugar derivative, so when you do use it, it is going to be a little bit more sugar, but this one is in glycerin. I prefer this one as opposed to the alcohol one. So if you guys do want to get on board with that, I'm actually a big fan of this company. I use them quite frequently. And next it says a teaspoon of lemon extract. So I don't really do lemon extract, so what we're gonna do here, lemon extract comes from a lemon, obviously, right? So organic, I always go organic lemons because usually, you know, we're zesting these. So when you do zest a product, we are taking off the skin, right? The skin is the zest part. That means that if there are any pesticides or herbicides on the skin, it is going right into our food. We wanna try to avoid that as much as possible. And then it says the zest of 4 lemons, which would mean that you're taking 4 lemons. What I have for a zester, we have some of our utensils coming in, is going to be basically like, I don't know what this is. I think it's the brand OXO. And yep. And then you just get this and it's inserts and you can just zest right here and it falls right into the bin and then you can dump it into your mixture. So this is gonna be 4. And like we explored with the key lime pie recipe, it's better if you use the lemons as opposed to cutting them and then doing it, because you don't get any of the juice on it. You just go straight in, you zest them all, and then they're gonna be bald lemons. They're not gonna be lemons anymore looking, they're gonna be white, and you will just be able to store those. They're gonna go bad a little bit faster, so make sure to have something that you're doing. I don't know, maybe make some lemonade or whatever that is afterwards, or just drink them frequently with some water. It's a great way to purify out your body as well. Lemon water is really alkalizing. Or we have an alternative. The alternative for me is an essential oil of lemon, because the zest is coming from the lemon and it really does do a great job instead of using all this. If you don't want to go through all that, which we're not going to do today, I am just going to use an essential oil of lemon. So I typically go for, depending on how strong this is. So this is going to be the brand doTERRA. doTERRA is very, very potent essential oils. If you use one from the store where it's organic food grade, it will be less potent. So you're really gonna have to play with this, but this one's really strong. So I'm probably gonna go 2 or 3 drops, depending if I want it more lemony or less lemony. I would say that's probably gonna be playing it safe. So this is gonna be zest concentrate basically, which I am going to use today instead of the zest. And then onto the holy grail of the recipe, it is going to be blueberries. So this is going to be the Trader Joe's brand, organic. It calls for 1 1/4 cup of blueberries. I typically put more blueberries in it than that. But here's the kicker. You want it to be wild, organic wild blueberries. Organic wild blueberries, very important. Typically they do not sell wild blueberries from what I've seen to be able to purchase. They are always regular blueberries, fresh. They only come in frozen from what I've seen. Whole Foods has a brand of them. Obviously, Trader Joe's has a brand. The reason why you're gonna want the wild blueberries as opposed to regular blueberries, they're actually smaller, you'll notice, very small. They have less sugar content and they have higher antioxidant content, meaning antioxidants go out, and they are able to quench free radicals. A free radical is basically if, let's say you get exposed to a toxin, that will then cause internally in your body a free radical release. Antioxidants are going to go after that, and they're going to pair up with those free radicals, and they're going to help them eliminate from your body. So free radicals are very important, and wild blueberries are some of the highest concentrated antioxidants that you can get, and you get a whole lot less sugar, and they are actually from the wild. So being that they're organic, they are an incredible superfood. And then finally, we have poppy seeds. Poppy seeds are great in this recipe. If you are not a fan of poppy seeds, you don't have to use that, but we are going to either garnish with them or we can mix them in. It does say 1/4 cup, that's a pretty decent amount. So if you don't want that many poppy seeds, you can always leave these out as well. It is not a requirement. And then one of my favorite spices, as always, which is not on the recipe, which is going to be organic cinnamon. Cinnamon, I absolutely love it. It's a blood sugar balancer. It's a really, really great herb. I'm gonna put at least a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon in with this recipe. So what else you're gonna need is you're gonna need a non-toxic cupcake tray. This one is gonna be a ceramic one. Not only that, you're gonna need a couple measuring utensils. It is going to be a 1/3 cup and a full cup. We are going to need some teaspoons. We are going to need a mixing bowl, very important. We need to mix all of the ingredients. And this is going to be melted ghee or melted coconut oil, right? So you want it to be liquid. So what I do, you have to be very careful when you do this, is I put it in the oven when the oven's on, and I'll time it for like a minute or two. And then I'll come back and I'll use my mitts, I'll grab it and I'll put it there. This one is completely cold as far as the bottle goes, but since I've heated it up, it is already at room temperature. So it's beyond that, and it is staying liquid basically until I cook with that. And mixing it with the eggs, you have to be careful because the eggs are gonna be cold because they're stored in the refrigerator. And then finally, we need large cupcake cups, right? So these are called large baking cups. This is gonna be from the brand If You Care. Like we talked about, I absolutely love this brand. Source materials sustainably. It is not going after fresh forests. They are going after certified regrowable forest as opposed to that. So you need these, goes in here, it makes for this much better, right? So you're gonna need 12 of them. Love this brand, If You Care, absolutely great paper products. And before we get started in mixing the ingredients, I wanna make sure that you guys preheat the oven to 350 degrees before you start in here, because once you start in, the oven has time to preheat. As soon as you are done, the oven will either already be done or very close to being done, and then we could just pop the muffins in there for the total bake time. So first things first, if you wanna use 2 bowls, you can, or you can go about it the way I'm gonna do it. So the first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna mix all the wet together, and then we are going to add in with the dry. Or if you wanna use the 2 bowls, you can do them separately. But for me, if I do the wet first, and I have that going, and then I add into the dry ingredients, and then I just mix it properly, it's going to work just the same. Okay, so here we go, onto the eggs first. Eggs, you are going to have to crack them, and then you're gonna have to whisk them as well. So we're gonna move this cupcake tray aside, and we are gonna go after the bowl. So number 1, here we go, eggs. Egg number 1, and number 2, egg number 2, right in there, and we are going to whisk them, or we're using a spoon today. You can use a fork as well, whatever you prefer. I am not totally unpacked, so I don't have all of my stuff right now. So here we go here, basically just whipping the eggs and blending in the yolks as well as the whites. So while we're doing this, I just want to put a note in here that a lot of people are under the presumption that eating egg yolks raises your cholesterol. And I am going to challenge you on that and tell you that that's one of the biggest myths out there. That is not true at all, number 1. Number 2, actually, an egg is a perfect pair of nutrients in the yolks that helps you break down the proteins of the white. So you do not want to separate, ever, I never separate them, the yolks from the whites. It is not a good idea. Actually, if I were to choose, I would choose to eat the yolks because of all the B vitamin contents and everything like that, as opposed to the whites. And typically speaking, when you have some type of egg intolerance, it's usually from egg whites as opposed to egg yolks. And the next stage is going to be putting in the coconut oil. So this coconut oil is not hot anymore. I can feel from the jar. So when I do the coconut oil and the honey or maple syrup, I'm choosing maple syrup. It's a little bit more liquidy, a little bit more easy to work with because I usually use the Killer Bee honey, which is a basically putty at room temperature. I always use the coconut oil first, and it's going to require a 1/4 cup, and I'm gonna use the 1/3 cup. I'll tell you why in a second. So I'm gonna measure this. I'm gonna follow the 1/4 cup, so just, this is a 1/3 cup. I'm not gonna fill it up all the way. And if this is hot, it's gonna start cooking the egg, so it's very important for it not to be hot. And the reason why I did the oil first is because now this measuring cup is coated in oil. So as you guys notice right here, check this out. When I put my maple syrup in, it requires a 1/3 cup if you want a little bit less, or if you want to use a stevia or monk fruit sweetener in replace of a sugar in your paleo or on some type of paleo cycle, please make sure to find the appropriate conversion online. When we pour this in here, normally it would probably stick, but if you look here, it is not, there's like nothing left in there, right? And I can pretty much get all of that maple syrup out of that, as opposed to potentially getting it stuck because we use the oil first instead of using the sweetener first and the oil second. And moving onwards, we now have our vanilla, cherished vanilla. I feel like vanilla is a superfood. I absolutely love it. It's a great flavor. So vanilla, we're going 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Put that right in there. And then the final thing we have to add in there is going to be the essential oil from lemons if you're doing it this way, or if you're doing the teaspoon of the concentrate and then the zest, which is a cool process. It just takes a lot longer. You can do so. I am going to do 3 drops of lemon. And this is a very potent oil, like I did talk about. You can definitely smell it. So now we have to whisk this all together, and then we're gonna start adding in the dry ingredients. All right, here we go. Whisking it together, super official with this amazing regular spoon here. There you go, we're basically just stirring it together, and we are looking mighty fine here. There we go, and I am going to add the blueberries last because they are cold, and I do not want to put cold blueberries into a liquid mixture. It's going to congeal it, and it's not going to be advantageous to us. And onto our spices, we are going to take out a half. You have to judge this for yourself. I'm going half. I love cinnamon. I think it makes the dish extremely good, but if you don't want it, you don't have to use it. Anything in here is replaceable / substitutable, or you just don't even have to use it if you're not into poppy seeds either. And then we have a couple other ingredients. We need the 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. That's gonna go right in there. And then we need the 1/2 teaspoon of sea salt, Himalayan, which is usually the pink. And we have the gray salt with us today because we're not gonna grind that up. And now we are going to stir this up, making sure that we get all of the flavors stirred around into this mixture. If I had, to be real with you guys, another mixing bowl, I would definitely do this separate. But since I don't, I know it's gonna come out fine. I've done it this way many times when I'm just kind of in a time crunch. I wanna make them fast. It's just making sure to stir it enough so that all the flavors are going to intertwine throughout the muffins. Okay, we are almost done already. It's a very fast recipe. So first things first, we need 2 cups before we put the blueberries in, because we don't want this to start congealing, of nut flour. So we are going almond flour today. If you guys are sick of almonds, you can do something else. I would not suggest coconut flour. Coconut flour just does not cook well as far as a lot of things. Like, it'll be an add-in for the most part, but I never go and substitute. So I just have a little bit left here. I'm just gonna go ahead and throw that in. There was maybe a tablespoon left. This recipe is pretty forgiving for measuring, and we're gonna start stirring here. Stir this all the way up. It's gonna come into a nice thicker mixture, but the coconut flour just doesn't translate very well when it's used in huge quantities as a direct substitute. So often times in the past, I've used coconut flour and tried to make pancakes of it, and it just never really seems to work out. So here we go here. We are pretty much almost done with the stir. Doesn't really take too much, but you do want to stir it if you're using one bowl a little bit more, just to make sure that you get all of the seasonings throughout the entire muffin base. And you can go ahead and smell it already too. Man, the maple syrup in this is just a home run. And now we are on to the final part, which is going to be the frozen wild blueberries. So the recipe does call for 1.25 cups of frozen wild blueberries. I like the blueberries in there, so I usually go a little bit overboard. I go about 1.5 cups, or if I have a smaller bag and it's like just over 1.5 cups or something, I'll just put the whole bag in there. But this is a bigger bag. If I put all this in there, it would totally overpower the muffins. But this is a really easy recipe to double and then make this at the same time while you're baking it in the oven. Okay, we have the blueberries in here, and all you got to do is stir it up. These are going to start giving it a nice quality color right there. It's really going to start darkening everything. The blueberries really start making these muffins into what you would traditionally think of as blueberry muffins here. It really starts to give the blue hint to the flour and the mixture. And you can always smell it. I smell the cinnamon. I love the cinnamon. And now we can add in the poppy seeds. Guys, I think 1/4 cup of poppy seeds is excessive. But if you love poppy seeds in your blueberry muffins, you can do that. But I am just gonna be real with you guys. I do not ever put 1/4 cup of poppy seeds into these muffins. I may make the whole muffins, I may garnish a little bit on the top, or I may put about 1 tablespoon and try it out for yourself. Do 1 tablespoon in one and see if that's enough, and if it's not enough and you want more crunch to it, you can always put more in the next time. But if you put 1/4 cup in there and you get them back and you're like, I don't like this, then what do you do with the muffins? Okay, so I am going with 1 tablespoon, just shy, of poppy seeds. And this is going to be the final stir, and the mixture has definitely congealed here because of the blueberries temperature. You can always leave the blueberries out a little bit in advance if you really want to start getting them softer and less cold, which will allow a easier mixture, but it does make it easier to put that into the muffin tray as well, being that it's a little thicker. And we have totally mixed this through. It is thick, look at this. Super thick mixture. And now we are going to line the muffin tray. So we're just gonna line this real quick and easy. The other thing about this product, if we care, is they are not using chemicals. Every time you see non-stick, guys, be careful that you are not ingesting chemicals, because traditionally in the United States and most countries today, if you are doing non-stick equals chemicals. So in your mind, unless they say non-toxic, this is free of XXX and X chemicals. Make sure that whenever you see non-stick, it is going to be a non-toxic version, free of all the chemicals that they easily shortcut. Remember, convenience is one of the killers in our country. We don't want convenience. We want to pay a little bit more so that we can make sure not to start accumulating a lot of these toxic chemicals in our body. So now you are going to have to use your finger, because this mixture is going to be a little bit thick right now. And it's pretty much like a pretty big spoonful here. And we are going to put all of our muffins in. And here we have it. If you guys want to make it fancy, I don't really ever do that. I am just ready to go. Muffins are going in. This is a great breakfast muffin. It's got a lot of really good things in it. We have almond flour, we have wild blueberries that have tons of antioxidant, we have blood sugar balancing in the cinnamon, we have some minerals, a lot of them trace minerals in the sea salts when you're using Himalayan, and the gray sea salt as well. So this is a slam dunk, going right into the 350 oven for 25 to 30 minutes. What I typically do is I put it in the oven for around 26, and then I'm going to check to see if it's starting to brown around the edges. Remember, we don't want to burn these. If it's starting to brown, that means that they're ready to go. So I'm going to put this in now, and we're gonna be right back. And there you have it, the lemon poppy seed blueberry muffins done. They're amazing. So they are all slightly different. They don't rise like incredibly high like the traditional muffin. This is probably the closest one to it, but they're still gonna be a slam dunk recipe. I'm telling you, these are amazing. So one thing, you can always take a toothpick, put it in the top to see if it is done. This muffin is a little hot, but you guys know, we have to eat this together. So If you see the steam coming off a little bit. One of my favorite things that we will make on this channel is gonna be these. Everybody always asks me, dude, can you please make those blueberry muffins because they're incredibly good. So breakfast food for you guys. Great, packed with a ton of nutrients, everything you need. Throw in with your breakfast, add it to being on the go, maybe some type of sweet treat that's gonna give you a packed nutrient density as well. So I just wanna say thank you guys for tuning in and cooking these blueberry muffins with me today. Super appreciate all you guys for being here. I'm excited to cook more delicious and nutritious recipes with you guys and change the world one bite at a time. Thank you.